Jake Morrison crawled through another dark maintenance tunnel and wondered why he had ever thought working on a space station would be exciting. The tunnel was barely wide enough for his shoulders and smelled like burnt metal and recycled air that had been recycled too many times. His back ached from 18 hours of fixing broken systems, and his stomach growled louder than the ventilation fans. All Jake wanted was to grab some instant noodles from the vending machine on deck 7 and fall asleep in his tiny quarters. But the universe seemed determined to make his life difficult. First, the coffee machine in the main cafeteria had exploded and covered half the dining area in brown liquid that looked suspiciously like motor oil. Then the artificial gravity in Section C started acting up and sending people floating into the ceiling every few minutes now. The life support system in the diplomatic wing was making strange noises, and Chief Rodriguez had personally asked Jake to check it out before the alien delegates arrived tomorrow. Jake pulled himself forward through the tunnel, using his elbows, and cursed. Whoever had designed this station, the blueprints showed plenty of space for maintenance access, but somehow every tunnel ended up being just a little too small for normal humans. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness ahead and revealed another junction where 3 tunnels met. Jake checked his tablet and saw he needed to go left, toward the diplomatic quarters. The sounds from the life support system were getting louder and more concerning. It sounded like someone was shaking a box full of angry metal parts. Jake reached the access panel he needed and started to open it when he heard voices coming from somewhere nearby. The voices were not speaking any human language. He recognized one voice sounded musical and flowing, like water over rocks. The other voices were harsh and clicking like insects talking to each other. Jake froze in the tunnel and listened more carefully. The musical voice sounded stressed, and the clicking voices sounded angry. Jake knew he should probably back away and report this to station security, but something about the tone of the voices made him worry that someone might be in trouble. He crawled forward quietly until he found a ventilation grate that looked down into one of the diplomatic meeting rooms. What Jake saw through the grate made his stomach drop. A tall woman with pointed ears and silver hair was backed against the far wall of the room. She wore elegant robes that looked expensive and important. 3 large, insect-like creatures in military armor were advancing toward her with weapons drawn. The woman was bleeding from a cut on her arm and looked exhausted. She held a small energy weapon, but Jake could see she was outnumbered and outgunned. The insect soldiers were chittering to each other in their clicking language. Jake did not understand their words, but their body language was clear enough. They were planning to kill the pointed ear woman. Jake felt his hands start to shake as he realized he was watching something very bad about to happen. His first instinct was to back away quietly and pretend he had never seen anything. This was clearly some kind of diplomatic incident way above his pay grade. Grage was just a maintenance guy who fixed broken pipes and replaced burned-out lights. He was not trained for alien politics or military situations, but as he started to back away, one of the insect soldiers raised its weapon and pointed it directly at the woman. She closed her eyes and seemed to be saying some kind of prayer in her musical language. Jake felt something inside him snap. Maybe it was the exhaustion from his terrible shift. Maybe it was his general frustration with the universe. Maybe it was just the simple human inability to watch someone get hurt when he could do something about it. Jake reached for his maintenance tablet and started pulling up the station systems. He knew every pipe and wire in circuit in this section of the station. He knew exactly which systems controlled what and how they all connected together. Jake activated the emergency gravity adjustment for the diplomatic wing. Suddenly, all 3 insect soldiers stumbled as the artificial gravity shifted from normal to twice normal weight. They struggled to stay upright in their heavy armor, while the lighter woman adapted more quickly. Next, Jake triggered the emergency lighting system. The room plunged into darkness for 3 seconds, then blazed with bright red emergency lights that strobed on and off. The insect soldiers made angry clicking sounds and tried to adjust their weapons. Jake opened the steam vents from the heating system. Hot white steam poured into the room. From multiple wall panels, the insects could not see through the steam and started firing randomly. The pointed-ear woman took advantage of the chaos. She moved like a dancer despite her injury and struck the nearest soldier with some kind of martial arts move that sent it crashing into the wall. Jake watched through the grate as she disarmed the second soldier and used its own weapon against the third. Within minutes, all 3 insect soldiers were unconscious. On the floor, the woman stood in the middle of the steamy room, breathing hard and looking around. Carefully, Jake quickly shut off the gravity adjustment, and the steam vents to emergency lights returned to normal. The woman walked to each of the unconscious soldiers and checked to make sure they were still alive. Then, she looked up directly at the ventilation grate, where Jake was hiding. Her eyes were large and green, and seemed to glow slightly in the dim light. She smiled and spoke, in accented, but clear human language. "Thank you, mysterious helper. I am Princess Zara of the Sovani Empire. You have saved my life." Jake felt his heart sink as he realized his quiet, anonymous help had been noticed. Station security arrived a few minutes later. Responding to the emergency alerts, Jake crawled back through the tunnels as quickly as he could. He wanted to get back to his quarters and pretend this had never happened, but when he finally emerged from the maintenance areas, Princess Zara was waiting for him. She had somehow figured out which tunnel he had used and tracked him down. Chief Rodriguez was with her, along with several security guards. Jake tried to explain that he had just been doing routine maintenance when he noticed some system problems, but Princess Zara interrupted him. "To the laws of my people, you have saved my life. This creates a debt of honor that must be repaid. I hereby declare that I owe you a life debt and will serve as your personal attendant until this debt is resolved." Jake stared at the elegant alien princess, covered in expensive robes and jewelry. He looked down at his own coveralls, stained with grease and various unidentifiable maintenance fluids. He thought about his tiny quarters with the broken air conditioning and the stack of dirty laundry on his desk. He thought about his simple life of fixing things and eating instant noodles and sleeping when he could. All he had wanted was to finish his shift and get some food and sleep. Now, he apparently had an alien princess who wanted to be his personal servant. Jake Morrison realized that his quiet, simple life had just become very complicated. Jake Morrison sat in his small quarters the next morning, staring at Princess Zara, who was attempting to organize his toolbox. She had arranged all his wrenches by size and color in what she claimed was a traditional Sovani pattern that promoted harmony and spiritual balance. Jake just wanted his sonic wrench back so he could fix the water recycler on deck 3. The princess had also prepared breakfast for him, using ingredients from the diplomatic food supplies. The meal looked beautiful, with purple flowers arranged around green paste that sparkled in the artificial light. It tasted like someone had mixed perfume with grass clippings. Jake forced himself to eat it, while Princess Zara watched him expectantly. She seemed pleased when he managed to finish the entire portion without making faces. After breakfast, Jake tried once again to explain that the life debt thing was not necessary. He told Princess Zara that humans did not have complicated honor codes, and that helping people was just normal behavior. The princess listened politely, but shook her head. "Among my people, a life debt is sacred," she said. "I cannot return to my family or my duties until this debt is properly resolved. You saved my life, so now my life belongs to you until I can save yours." In return, Jake pointed out that he did not want anyone to save his life, because he was not planning to be in any life-threatening situations. He just wanted to fix broken things and eat food that did not taste like flowers. Princess Zara seemed confused by this concept. "In my world," she explained, "honor and duty are more important than personal comfort. A warrior who owes a life debt but ignores it becomes an outcast from society." Jake was starting to understand that this was going to be more complicated than he had hoped. Darmaya Collins stopped by his quarters later that morning and found the situation hilarious. She examined the princess with scientific curiosity, while Jake tried to work on his daily maintenance reports. Explained that Sylvani Culture was based on rigid codes of honor that had developed over thousands of years there. Society functioned through complex webs of obligation and debt that most humans found impossible to understand, the only way to resolve. A life debt, Maya said, was for the debtor to save the creditor's life in return, or for the creditor to formally release the debtor from scenes. Jake was clearly not planning to need life-saving anytime soon. The princess would probably be stuck, serving him indefinitely. Jake groaned and put his head down on his desk. This was exactly the kind of complicated situation he had spent his entire life trying to avoid. Meanwhile, Princess Zara had discovered his laundry basket and was examining his dirty clothes with fascination. She held up a maintenance jumpsuit and asked detailed questions about human clothing construction. Then she disappeared into the small bathroom with an armful of his laundry. When she emerged 20 minutes later, every piece of clothing had been washed and folded with geometric precision. Each shirt was creased along exact lines, and the pants were arranged in perfect stacks. Jake had never seen his clothes look so organized. The princess seemed proud of her work and explained that proper clothing care was a form of meditation in Sylvani culture. While Jake was still processing this information, Commander Lissa Veltar arrived at his quarters. She was one of the insect-like aliens from the Zarian collective, and wore the same type of military armor as the soldiers who had attacked Princess Zara. Jake tensed up when he saw her, but Commander Lissa immediately held up her hands in a peaceful gesture. "I come to apologize," she said in a buzzing voice that sounded like machinery. "The soldiers who attacked Princess Zara were acting without orders. My government is deeply sorry for this incident, Commander." Lissa was much larger than Jake had expected, standing nearly 7 feet tall, with 4 arms and compound eyes, but her manner was polite and respectful. She explained that the Zarian collective valued honor almost as much as the Sylvani Empire. The attack on Princess Zara was considered a grave dishonor to her entire species. Princess Zara accepted the apology gracefully, but pointed out that the life debt still existed, regardless of politics. Commander Lissa nodded and said she understood. Then surprised Jake by asking if she could observe how he had managed to defeat 3 trained soldiers, using only the station systems. Jake tried to explain that he had not really defeated anyone. He had just caused some distractions using systems he knew well, but Commander Lissa seemed fascinated by his approach. "In my world," she said, "we solve problems through direct confrontation and superior firepower. Your method of using the environment itself as a weapon is completely foreign to our thinking. I would like to study your techniques." Jake realized he now had both an alien princess folding his laundry and an alien military commander wanting to learn maintenance procedures. His quiet life was getting stranger by the hour. Maya found the whole situation academically interesting. She explained that both the Sylvani Empire and Zarian Collective were currently engaged in delicate peace negotiations. Princess Zara was actually one of their most skilled diplomats. Her presence on the station was crucial to preventing a war between the two powers, but now she was stuck serving a human maintenance worker because of ancient honor codes. Maya pointed out that this created an unprecedented diplomatic situation. No one knew how to handle a princess who was legally obligated to fold laundry. Meanwhile, Jake just wanted to get back to work. The water recycler was still broken, and the artificial gravity in Section C was acting up again, but every time he tried to leave his quarters, Princess Zara insisted on accompanying him. She claimed it was her duty to protect him from any dangers he might encounter. Jake tried to explain that the biggest danger he usually faced was getting his fingers pinched in access panels. Princess Zara took this very seriously and spent an hour studying the layout of the maintenance tunnels. She asked detailed questions about potential hazards and emergency procedures. Commander Lissa joined them and offered tactical advice about tunnel navigations. Soon Jake found himself leading a small parade through the station. He crawled through access tunnels while an alien princess and military commander followed behind, taking notes. Other maintenance workers stared in amazement as Jake emerged from panels. Accompanied by his unusual assistant's chief, Rodriguez called him into her office. That afternoon she looked tired and stressed. "Jake," she said, "the diplomatic corps is having a nervous breakdown. Half of them think this life-debt situation is a brilliant new form of interspecies cooperation. The other half think it is a complete disaster that will destroy the peace talks. I need you to figure out how to resolve this quickly." Jake pointed out that he was just a maintenance technician who had gotten caught up in something beyond his control. Chief Rodriguez sighed and said that was exactly why everyone was looking to him for solutions. Politicians and diplomats created problems. He said regular people like Jake solved them. Jake returned to his quarters that evening to find that Princess Zara had completely reorganized his living space. His tools were arranged in perfect roses. Few personal belongings were displayed according to some alien aesthetic principle. His bed was made with military precision. Commander Lissa was sitting at his small desk studying maintenance manuals. She looked up when Jake entered and said she had learned 3 new problem-solving techniques just from reading his equipment guides. Jake sat down heavily and wondered what his life had become. He had wanted snacks and sleep instead. He had an alien princess who treated laundry folding as a sacred art, and an alien warrior who wanted to revolutionize military strategy using maintenance procedures. Darmaya stopped by with dinner and found all 3 of them discussing the philosophical implications of preventive maintenance. She took pictures for her research files. Jake looked at his perfectly organized quarters and his alien companions and realized that maybe this was not the worst thing that could happen. It was definitely not what he had planned, but Princess Zara seemed genuinely happy when she successfully repaired a broken light fixture. And Commander Lissa had already identified 17 ways to improve station security using maintenance protocols. Maybe having complicated friends was better than having no friends at all, even if they did fold his underwear with mathematical precision. 3 days later, Jake Morrison was fixing a broken air filter when the entire station shook from the arrival of a massive warship through the porthole. He could see the sleek silver hull of a Sylvani battlecruiser taking position near the station. An hour later, another tremor announced the arrival of a Zarian military fleet. Jake watched as dark angular ships moved into formation on the opposite side of the station. Chief Rodriguez called an emergency meeting for all station personnel. She looked even more stressed than usual as she explained that both alien governments had sent their military forces to retrieve their representatives. The Sylvani Empire was demanding the immediate return of Princess Zarada. Zarian Collective wanted Commander Lissa to face questioning about the incident with the rogue soldiers. Both fleets were armed and ready for battle. Jake sat in the back of the meeting room with Princess Zara and Commander Lissa flanking him like bodyguards. The princess had insisted on attending to protect him from any potential threats. Commander Lissa wanted to observe human crisis management techniques. Other station personnel kept staring at their unusual group. Dr. Maya explained the situation to Jake in simple terms. After the meeting, the peace negotiations between the 2 alien powers had been fragile from the beginning. Many people on both sides wanted the war to continue because it was profitable for military contractors and political leaders. The attack on Princess Zara had been planned by a faction that wanted to sabotage the peace talks, but instead of destroying the negotiations, the incident had created something unexpected. The life debt between Jake and Princess Zara was legally binding under Sylvani law. Long as the debt existed, the princess could not return to her home world. This meant the Sylvani could not withdraw from the peace talks without abandoning one of their most important nobles. At the same time, Commander Lissa had become fascinated with human problem-solving methods. She had requested permission to extend her stay on the station to continue her research. Her government was confused but agreed because her reports about human techniques were genuinely valuable. Both alien governments were now stuck in a situation created by their own laws and customs. Jake realized that his simple act of helping someone in trouble had accidentally prevented a war, but it had also put everyone on the station in danger. The peace talks failed. Completely, both fleets might decide to destroy the research station. To eliminate witnesses that afternoon, Princess Zara received an official communication from her family. Jack watched her read the message and saw her face grow pale. The princess told him that her father, the emperor, was furious about the life-death situation. According to Silvani nobility customs, a princess who served a commoner brought shame to the entire royal family. Her younger brother had publicly declared that she was no longer worthy of her titles. Several high-ranking nobles were demanding that she be stripped of her position and exiled. Princess Zara tried to hide her distress, but Jake could see that the message had hurt her deeply. She had sacrificed her reputation and family relationships because of her obligation to him. Jake felt terrible about the situation, but did not know how to fix it. Commander Lissa also received bad news from her superiors. The military faction that had ordered the attack on Princess Zara was blaming her for the failure. They claimed that her failure to prevent the incident proved she was incompetent. Her career was now in jeopardy, and she might face court-martial when she returned home. Jake found himself responsible for 2 alien women whose lives had been destroyed by their association with him. He had just wanted to fix things and eat instant noodles instead. He had accidentally created a diplomatic crisis that threatened to restart an interstellar war. Their situation got worse when representatives from both governments arrived on the station. The Silvani sent Prince Aldrich, who was Princess Zara's younger brother, and clearly resented her situation. The Zarian collective sent General Korax, who had been one of the leaders planning the sabotage. Both representatives demanded immediate private meetings with their people. Jake realized that the original conspirators were now in positions of power and trying to clean up their mess. Prince Aldrich told Princess Zara that she could end her disgrace by formally renouncing the life debt. All she had to do was declare that human honor codes were meaningless and return home. Immediately the princess refused and explained that breaking a life debt would violate everything. She believed in her brother threatened to have her declared legally dead and removed from the royal succession. General Korax told Commander Lissa that she could save her career by claiming that Jake had somehow coerced Princess Zara into the life debt. He suggested that humans were naturally manipulative and had tricked both alien governments. Commander Lissa also refused and said that her observations of Jake proved he was honest and honorable. General Korax warned that her continued defiance would result in her execution for treason. Jake listened to these conversations through the station's communication system. His maintenance access allowed him to monitor most areas when necessary. He realized that both Princess Zara and Commander Lissa were risking everything to protect him and honor their obligations. Meanwhile, he was just a guy who fixed broken pipes. That evening, Jake found both alien women sitting quietly in his quarters. Princess Zara was folding his laundry with mechanical precision, but her usual grace was gone. Commander Lissa was reading maintenance manuals, but her compound eyes kept looking toward the princess. The atmosphere was heavy with worry and sadness. Jake made a decision that surprised even himself. He told both women that he was going to find a way to solve this problem, not because he was brave or heroic, but because the whole situation was incredibly annoying. He had work to do, and the political drama was interfering with his ability to keep the station running properly. Jake spent the night studying everything he could find about Silvani law and Zarian military customs. He also reviewed the technical specifications for both fleets and the station's defensive systems. By morning, he had the beginning of an idea. It was probably a terrible idea that would get them all killed, but it was better than watching his friends destroy their lives because of his actions. Jake called Dr. Maya and Chief Rodriguez to his quarters. He explained his plan while Princess Zara and Commander Lissa listened with growing amazement. The plan was typically human in its approach. Instead of trying to navigate complex laws and honor codes, Jake wanted to create an entirely new situation. If the problem was that Princess Zara owed him a life debt, then the solution was simple. He needed to put himself in danger so she could save his life and clear the debt. But Jake did not want to just create fake danger. He had noticed that both alien fleets were positioning themselves For battle, the conspiracy faction on both sides wanted the peace talks to fail. If fighting broke out, the research station would be destroyed, and everyone on it would die. Jake realized he could solve multiple problems at once. He could expose the conspirators, threaten them with consequences, and create a situation where Princess Zara could legitimately save his life. The plan required him to do something that went against every instinct he had. He would have to stop fixing things and start breaking them. Instead, Jake Morrison was about to turn the entire space station into a weapon. Jake Morrison spent the next morning doing something he had never done in his entire career. He was deliberately breaking things instead of fixing them, but he was breaking them in very specific and careful ways. Princess Zara watched him work with growing concern as he modified the station's communication. Commander Lissa studied his techniques with professional interest. Dr. Maya and Chief Rodriguez helped by providing access codes and distracting other maintenance staff. Jake's plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. He was going to broadcast evidence of the conspiracy to both alien fleets simultaneously. This would expose the war faction leaders and force them to take desperate action when they attacked the station. To silence the evidence, Princess Zara would have to help defend its saving. The station would count as saving Jake's life, since he lived there though. Life debt would be resolved and the peace negotiations could continue. The hardest part was gathering the evidence without alerting the conspirators. Jake used his maintenance access to tap into private communications between Prince Aldrich and General Korax, recorded conversations where they discussed sabotaging the peace talks and eliminating witnesses. He also found financial records showing payments to the rogue soldiers who had attacked Princess Zara. Commander Lissa helped by accessing Zarian military databases and finding the original attack orders. Princess Zara provided historical context about similar conspiracies in Sylvani politics. Darmaya analyzed the evidence and helped organize it into a format that both alien cultures would understand. Chief Rodriguez coordinated with loyal security personnel who could protect key station systems. By afternoon, they had enough evidence to destroy the political careers of everyone involved in the conspiracy. Jake finished modifying the communication array and tested the broadcast system. He could now override both fleets' communication networks and send the evidence directly to every ship. The transmission would be impossible to block or jam. Once the evidence was broadcast, the conspiracy would be exposed to thousands of military personnel. Jake knew the conspirators would have to act quickly to prevent the information from reaching their home governments. They would probably try to destroy the station and claim it was destroyed in battle. This would give Princess Zara the life-threatening situation she needed to resolve the debt, but it would also put everyone on the station in real danger. Jake gathered his small team in the station's command center. Princess Zara had changed from her diplomatic robes into combat armor. Commander Lissa wore her full military gear and carried advanced weapons. Dr. Maya had prepared emergency medical supplies. Chief Rodriguez had assembled the most reliable security staff. Jake looked at his friends and realized he was about to bet all their lives on his understanding of alien science. Hoped he was right about how the conspirators would react. At exactly 1400 hours station time, Jake activated the broadcast. The evidence streamed out to both fleets in multiple languages and formats: financial records showing the payments to rogue soldiers, communications proving the attack was planned by high-ranking officials, military orders contradicting the official story about unauthorized actions, personal messages between conspirators discussing how to restart the war. Jake watched the communication displays as both fleets received the information. For several minutes, nothing happened, then chaos erupted on both sides. Loyal military officers began demanding explanations from their commanders. Prince Aldrich and General Korax tried to claim the evidence was fabricated, but too many people had access to verify the records independently. Within an hour, both conspirators were under arrest by their own force. Jake thought the crisis was over. He was wrong. A faction of warships from both fleets suddenly broke formation and turned toward the station. These were ships commanded by officers loyal to the conspiracy. They had decided that destroying all the witnesses was their only chance to escape justice while Sylvani fighters and 8 Zarian heavy cruisers accelerated toward the research station. Jake realized his plan had worked too well. Princess Zara would definitely have a chance to save his life, assuming any of them survived the next few hours. Chief Rodriguez activated the station's emergency shields, but they were designed to protect against accidents, not military attack. The defensive weapons were minimal since the station was supposed to be neutral territory. Jake found himself in command of the defense, not because he had military training, but because he knew the station better than anyone else. He began treating the battle like a massive repair job instead of trying to fight the attacking ships directly. He focused on making the station harder to destroy. Rerouted power from non-essential systems to strengthen the shields. He activated emergency protocols that sealed blast doors and protected critical areas. He used the station's industrial equipment as improvised weapons. Mining lasers became anti-ship batteries. Cargo manipulator arms grabbed incoming missiles and threw them back at attackers. Construction drones swarmed around the station, creating confusion and blocking targeting sensors. Princess Zara coordinated the defense of key locations. Her combat training proved invaluable as she led security teams against boarding parties. She moved through the station like a deadly dancer, cutting down enemies with elegant precision. Commander Lissa provided tactical advice and operated the improvised weapon systems. Her forearms allowed her to control multiple systems simultaneously. She turned the station's own defenses into a coordinated network that confused and frustrated the attackers. Dr. Maya treated wounded defenders and kept essential systems running. Chief Rodriguez managed communications and coordinated with the loyal ships from both fleets. The battle raged for 3 hours. Drake found himself running through maintenance tunnels while explosions shook the station. He rerouted power cables under enemy fire and repaired damaged systems while debris fell around him. At one point, a Zarian boarding team cornered him in a dead-end corridor. Jake activated an emergency steam vent that filled the area with superheated vapor while the enemies struggled to see through the steam. Princess Zara appeared behind them. She eliminated the entire squad with moves that looked like a deadly ballet. Jake realized she had just saved his life in the most literal sense possible. The tide of battle turned when reinforcements arrived. The loyal portions of both fleets had arrested their traitorous commanders and come to help defend the station. The attacking ships found themselves outnumbered and outgunned. Most surrendered when they realized their cause was hopeless. Few tried to ram the station in suicide attacks but were destroyed by the combined alien fleets. When the shooting finally stopped, Jake sat down in the nearest corridor and tried to catch his breath. Princess Zara found him there. A few minutes later she was covered in dust and minor cuts, but smiling. According to Sylvani law, she said, "I have now saved your life in return for you saving mine. The debt between us is resolved. I am free to return to my duties." Jake looked at the elegant alien warrior who had just fought through a space battle to protect him. He realized he was going to miss having someone who folded his laundry with mathematical precision. Commander Lissa appeared and announced that the Zarian Collective was promoting her for her role in exposing the conspiracy. Her innovative use of human problem-solving techniques had impressed the military leadership. Both aliens governments were embarrassed by the actions of their rogue elements. The peace negotiations would resume with new representatives who actually wanted peace. Drake had accidentally prevented a war saved to alien careers and created a new model for interspecies cooperation. All he had wanted was to fix things and eat instant noodles, but maybe having complicated friends and folded laundry was not such a bad trade. Princess Zara asked if she could stay on the station as a permanent diplomatic liaison. Commander Lissa requested assignment to a new joint task force based at the research facilities. Maya wanted to document everything for the Xenanthropology journals. Chief Rodriguez just wanted the paperwork to make sense. Jake Morrison realized his quiet, simple life was never coming back, but looking at his friends, he decided that might not be entirely bad. 2 weeks after the battle, Jake Morrison finally got his wish to eat instant noodles and sleep for more than 4 hours. But the universe seemed determined to keep his life interesting in other ways. Princess Zara had officially been released from her life debt, but chose to remain on the station as the new Sylvani diplomatic liaison. She claimed this was because she wanted to study human approaches to problem-solving. Jake suspected it was also because she genuinely enjoyed the practical satisfaction of fixing broken things. Commander Lissa had been promoted to head of a new joint military task force operating from the research station. Her assignment was to develop innovative defense strategies using human maintenance techniques. She spent most of her time studying how Jake approached complex repairs and applying those methods to tactical problems. Demaya had become famous in academic circles for her documentation of the first recorded human-alien life debt resolution. She was writing 3 different papers about the cultural implications and had been invited to speak at conferences across the galaxy. Chief Rodriguez had received a commendation from the Colonial Union for her handling of the crisis. She was also dealing with requests from 17 different universities that wanted to establish research programs on the station. Jake found himself the reluctant subject of multiple documentary projects. Reporters from various species wanted to interview the maintenance worker who had prevented an interstellar war. He usually hid in the ventilation tunnels when camera crews arrived. The morning routine in Jake's quarters had evolved into something he never could have imagined. Princess Zara still folded his laundry with geometric precision. She claimed it helped her think through complex diplomatic problems. Commander Lissa had set up a small workshop area where she practiced applying maintenance techniques to military equipment. She could now repair a broken communicator or rewire a weapons system using methods she learned from watching Jake Dr. Maya stopped by most mornings to drink coffee and discuss her latest research findings. She was particularly interested in how the 3 different species had developed an effective working relationship. Jake had tried to explain that they just talked to each other and helped with problems when they came up. Maya insisted this was a revolutionary approach to interspecies cooperation. The peace negotiations had resumed with new representatives who actually wanted to achieve lasting agreements. Both the Sylvani Empire and Zarian Collective had publicly apologized for the actions of their rogue factions. Several new trade agreements had been signed and cultural exchange programs were being established. Jake was invited to the formal peace signing ceremony as a guest of honor. He attended wearing his best maintenance jumpsuit because it was the only formal clothing he owned. Princess Zara had offered to provide him with traditional Sylvani diplomatic robes. Jake politely declined because he was afraid he would trip over them. The ceremony was held in the station's main conference room. Representatives from dozens of species attended either in person or via holographic projection. Jake sat between Princess Zara and Commander Lissa, feeling completely out of place when the Sylvani Emperor spoke about the importance of honor and duty in maintaining peace. Jake tried to look interested when the Zarian Prime General discussed innovative approaches to conflict resolution. Commander Lissa whispered technical corrections in his ear. The human colonial administrator thanked Jake personally for his contribution to galactic stability. Jake nodded politely and wondered when he could escape. Back to his workshop after the ceremony, there was a reception with elaborate food from multiple worlds. Jake tried several alien delicacies and discovered that Zarian protein cakes actually tasted pretty good. Princess Zara introduced him to her father, the Emperor, who seemed puzzled that a maintenance worker had created such a diplomatic sensation. Commander Lissa presented him with an honorary rank in the Zarian military reserves. Jake thanked everyone and quietly slipped away when the speeches started. He found his way back to his quarters and sat down at his small desks. The room was perfectly organized thanks to Princess Zara's continued attention to his living space. His tools were arranged in elegant patterns that somehow made them easier to find. His clothes were folded and stored with military precision. His few personal belongings were displayed in ways that made them look more important than they actually were. Jake realized that his simple maintenance worker lifestyle had been permanently upgraded Princess Sarah appeared in his doorway carrying a pot of tea and wearing casual human-style clothing. She had started dressing like station personnel. When she was not required to wear diplomatic robes, the practical clothes suited her better than the elaborate gowns. Commander Lissa arrived a few minutes later with a box of Zarian protein cakes and technical manuals. She had become addicted to both human coffee and human engineering principles. Maya showed up with her research notes and a bottle of something that looked suspiciously like alcohol. She wanted to celebrate the completion of her first paper about their unlikely friendship. The four of them sat in Jake's small quarters sharing food and discussing their plans for the future. Princess Zara had been assigned to negotiate several new cultural exchange agreements. She wanted to establish programs where Sylvani artists could learn human engineering techniques. Commander Lissa was developing a new military academy curriculum based on practical problem-solving methods. She hoped to train a generation of officers who could think like maintenance workers. Maya had received funding for a long-term study of interspecies cooperation. She planned to document how different cultures could work together without losing their individual identities. Jake listened to his friends discuss their ambitious projects. They all seemed excited about changing the galaxy and improving relations between species. Jake just wanted to keep the coffee machine working and fix the persistent leak in the hydroponics bay, but he realized that maybe his simple approach to problems was exactly what made their friendship work. Princess Sarah treated every task as important, whether it was folding laundry or negotiating trade agreements. Commander Lissa applied the same systematic thinking to military strategy and mechanical repairs. Maya found meaning in both grand academic theories and everyday practical experiences. They had all learned something from watching Jake approach complex problems by breaking them down into manageable parts. Jake got up and walked to his small kitchen area. The coffee machine was making concerning noises. Again he opened the access panel and began checking the internal components. Sarah appeared beside him with tools organized in perfect rows. Commander Lissa offered tactical analysis of the machine's failure points. Maya took notes about collaborative repair techniques. Jake smiled as he worked surrounded by his unusual friends. He had never gotten his quiet, simple life back, but he had gained something much more valuable. He had friends who folded his laundry with mathematical precision, friends who turned maintenance procedures into military strategy, friends who found academic significance in fixing broken coffee machines. Jake Morrison tightened the final connection and listened to the coffee machine return to normal operation. Outside his small quarters, the galaxy continued to spin with political complexity and diplomatic challenges, but inside his perfectly organized living space, everything was exactly as it should. His tools were arranged in elegant patterns, his clothes were folded with geometric precision. His friends were discussing how to improve interspecies relations using practical engineering principles, and the coffee machine was working perfectly. Jake realized this was probably better than instant noodles and sleep, though he still planned to get both whenever possible.